You know, looking back to when actually you come up with the idea right through to building a team and going on that investment journey. So it's a chance to kind of actually hear from somebody local who's you know, being fairly successful in building a product, building a team and getting some investment. And I'm not going to take too much airtime, and we're going to ask a couple of questions for Joanne, and then we'll open up to the room for you guys to ask some questions. So you're very welcome, Joanne. Do you want to make a quick introduction about what BrokerIQ is? That's always a good place to start.
Yeah, well, my name is Joanne Cole and I am the founder of BrokerIQ. BrokerIQ is a customer engagement platform built specifically for the mortgage and insurance broker industry. So I came from working in the broker industry. I was asked to work sort of in a business within the broking industry, really with customer engagement, and that's where the concept came from. So I trained myself as a broker, and I was able to look at the data that was collected and all of the data that was collected and how to use that data to really continue the relationship between broker and client, especially in the digital age where the online insurance and mortgage companies were getting bigger and better at their outreach to clients and how they were getting in front of their clients all the time. Yet the broking industry itself is so massive and so needed. And yet they didn't have the same digital capabilities. So that's where BrokerIQ was formed.
And is it true that they would be very much kind of relying on people coming into the office, relying on paperwork, relying on emails, kind of, you know, have all these clients come and talk to them as brokers? You know, that one-to-one relationship is really important. Absolutely. But how do they, you know, this platform enables them to move that paperwork and emails all into one place and manage those relationships a lot more seamlessly, a lot more, saves them lots of time. You know, it's that kind of how they're finding that journey. When you were talking to them at that stage of talking about digital and talking about, you know, this idea of BrokerIQ, did they think that they would adopt it even at that early stage?
No, I mean, when I first started talking about the digital capabilities, so I mean, I worked with a fantastic broker and I was all about the digital and what we used to bring things in to make it a bit more digital. And that was 4 or 5 years ago before the pandemic. And no, they weren't receptive to it because they do a very good job of what they do. But I suppose I could see, I was always fascinated by the online companies that were coming through. So at that time, it was Lemonade that were based in New York, and there was Brawley Insurance from Phoebe Hugh, who was in the UK. And I was fascinated by the digital technology that they were putting, but they were online digital platforms. They weren't for the broker market. So I was fascinated by what they were doing. I really did so much research into it. But again, I wanted to build something for the broker market. And I then went into my own platform initially at that stage called Review It, and it was an online digital platform, but I was still a broker where I could have communicated digitally with the clients, uploaded documents with the clients, and my now CTO was the person who built that website then as such, and to me that was where the industry was going. And then the pandemic hit, so then we had the chance to say, well, how are we going to move what we're doing now and scale it up? And that's where BrokerIQ came from. So, I mean, our platform at the minute, we would say, has 3 main elements to it. It has the onboarding of a client. It has the admin processing through the app with the client and the broker. And then we have the customer engagement section. So there's 3 parts to our process. And that's what I now work with the brokers in implementing into their daily practice.
So it was ahead of its time in terms of recognizing that the digital era was going to come, but maybe fast track slightly.
I didn't know about a pandemic. No, I really didn't know about a pandemic at that stage, or maybe would have worked quickly. But I think people would say to me, and you've alluded to, you know, Joanne, you've worked really quickly. You've only launched in September, but there was 3 years of me sort of toying about, doing a lot of market research and looking at the industry. I mean, I think it's important to note that I have a background in data analysis, so I didn't even look at the broker market in the way maybe a broker would look at it, because all I could see was data. I was distracted by the data and the utilization of that data, and then wanting to put the technology to it. And that's where I came from. And that was before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, I suppose then we did start to work more quickly on building something that would help.
And you know, we see a lot of startups think that there's overnight success, and they don't see that there's a couple of years that go in behind it, and you're doing that probably on the side. Would that be fair, in terms of actually having a full-time job as well? And at what point do you think that comes that moment? Do you think actually this is the time to make this startup a business, you know, from an idea that you've been working on as a side hustle to making it into like a real structured business? You know, was there something that kind of tipped you? Was it the pandemic, or was there something else that you were like, right, now's the
I just
time?
think we saw the opportunity. I think, you know, we had spent a couple of years. I'm actually a full-time teacher, was a full-time teacher, so we'll talk about that as well, Jenny. And so there was a big decision to leave my job, but I suppose there's been this want to do something outside of teaching, which is why I'd even gone into the insurance and mortgage industry prior to this. When I was asked to work within the industry, I jumped at the chance. Because I just had this want to do something else, and I've had that from I was very young, growing up, wanting to go into business and having that, I suppose, spirit of wanting to work on that. I suppose that came from my father as well. So when I was given the opportunity to go into this, I jumped at the chance, but I did do it alongside my teaching at the time, and I also had 2 young children. I had not long got married, so there was an awful lot going on at that period of time. I was doing it all. But when the opportunity arose for BrokerIQ, it was like a light bulb moment. One day I was back teaching, and I thought to myself, I think now it's now or never. And I decided there and then that I was going to go into this. And then I reached out to the guys at Raise. And that probably the journey started from I think it was a Tuesday evening, from that Tuesday evening to where I'm sitting here now, and it's unbelievable, you know.
Yeah, looking back, you know, that was, we were always on a program online, but that was run online because of the pandemic, and we were, you know, helping founders like Joanne with that knowledge and expertise and trying to say, right, well, how do we put a business around this? How do we put the business foundations around it? It could be anything from incorporating right up to actually thinking about cap tables, right up to sales and marketing, right up to the tech, and just moving as a industry or from a teacher or from any other operations or finance or sales in the CEO or a CEO role. Then you actually need all these skills that actually you're juggling 4 or 5 different aspects of your business in one day, and it's kind of putting those best foundations in place. And I think the journey for that, making it into a business, can be quite challenging, but I think what we've seen from the successful companies on the program and BrokerIQ is actually putting processes around it and actually being really clear and defined and having kind of targets to work towards. So coming to the program puts a bit of structure in place and helps you kind of work towards some kind of key metrics and key targets, you know, get the company up and running. And so we were working together. You could see that it was the start of the formation of the business, but it was also the start of the formation of the team. And it can be hard because, you know, who do you reach out to when you're working in an industry to try and get those expertise around the table? And I think it's working with a close network, and I'd be interested to find out a wee bit more about that, you know, going from you to the advisory team that you have now, and then, you know, how that's helped develop and grow the company.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, I think my first step was reaching out to Raise. I decided I was going to go with this. I'd spoken to the broker that I was working with, and he was exceptionally encouraging of what I was going to do. And then I spoke to Raise, and it was probably that week as well, after I'd spoken to you, that I reached out to a friend of ours that I've known for a long time, over 20 years, and hadn't spoken to him in a while. And I phoned him for a bit of advice, and I don't think he was expecting when I told him what I had. My concept was, you know, he said to me, Joanne, I need to think about this, and you know, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And he got back the next day, and he says, right, okay. He says, but I'm going to come on board a wee bit more permanently with you. And he's now fully fledged CEO of our company, and it's fantastic. So that was the start of the management team, as well as my brother, who's the CTO. So that's another reason why we moved very quickly, because I was able to have my concept, have the idea, but build it out myself very slowly alongside my brother, who was a senior developer. And at that same time, in October 2020, he decided he'd leave his full-time job in London to work on BrokerIQ. So, you know, we now suddenly went from a concept to a team.
Yes. And
the team meeting started on a weekly basis, and we just worked from there. I worked with the Raise team, the guys that we started building out the tech. We had Michael and myself on the management, where we were going to go. We had our plans in place, our product development, our MVP release, the release schedule. It just seemed to be one thing after another. I mean, I was still working full time. I couldn't, at that point, I was still teaching, and I had to submit my break for teaching. You know, I had to keep going. So that was a tough period, you know, when we were we were really building out the MVP, and then we were ready to go last.
And it's juggling those those priorities of working sometimes in your weekends and the evenings to build that, build that prototype out to make it interesting. And earlier you said maybe the brokers weren't so interested in using it. Fast forward a year later, with the pandemic has happened, and now you're actually going out to them and saying, we have an MVP that's going to help you communicate with your clients because they can't come into the office. And it's going to help you understand when their policies are ready. It's going to understand, all the different elements the brokers work for. Was that a changing moment for them to be interested more as early adopters and interested in actually using the product as well? So there was a bit of timing.
Yeah, I went out very early in the MVP stage to speak to brokers outside of my comfort area. So I had come from a broker, and I had a lot of feedback from myself from working in the industry, from clients, from Kieran, who I worked alongside. But I went out to other brokers, and I remember going out into actual brokers with my very basic MVP and putting them through it. It was probably the most nerve-wracking I had ever been. I was leaving school some evenings to go into a broker's office to demo when I think of it now in comparison to what we have now and what I went out with then, and nearly disbelief that they were like, yeah, like we can see where this is going, we would use that, we would want X, Y, and Z. And that's just how I progressed from then. I kept doing that until I had nearly a small bank of brokers who were invested in the platform because they were going to help build this platform with me. And that's exactly where we are now. It's very early on in the MVP stage. I went out to the brokers, and they helped me shape the product, so they were coming with ideas. Well, we'd like this built in, and we'd like this can you put this in? And that is nearly how we've even continued even to now in our, I would still say, early adopter stage. I would very much, as part of my own board, and say, you're coming on now and you're an early adopter, and I need you to work with me as much as I will work with you to get you onboarded. But I want to hear your feedback, and I want to know that if there's a feature that you would like, they would very much know about our release schedule, and if I can do it, I would give them a time, say, well, like, talk to the tech team, we'll have that out in 2 weeks time, or if it's a larger development, maybe our big schedule release in 6 months. So I
think that's one of the big successes is being able to go out and break that fourth wall and get the feedback sooner rather than later. And it might not be perfect right now, but it's solving some of their problems. And if they can have that feedback of like PDF ability or email ability or anything that you don't have, can we put it on the wish list? And how important is that wish list? And you hear that wish 10 times, it's really important. Like, you hear it once, maybe it's nice to have rather than a need to have.
And getting my clients, they're all brokers, but getting them on board alongside me. I have such a really great relationship with my brokers. That customer success, and I talk a lot about the customer success, is so important to me. I have a bit of a fixation on customer success. I talk about my customer success for my brokers, as in how good I am with them and their customer success, and how their onboarding plan and how supportive we are with that. But BrokerIQ was built to help them with their customer success. So it's like a twofold customer success journey. There's the BrokerIQ success of our clients, but also there's the brokers' clients, and we're trying to give them the best customer journey that the brokers can give their clients to ensure that they always have their clients there.
So you've been able to go out and work with that really close network of brokers, and you're finding that you can onboard them and they really love the product. At what point do you think they started we talked earlier about referring into the networks and the broker networks, and they say, well, actually, we're using this, why wouldn't any of the other brokers in our network use this to actually kind of grow and scale and help all the other brokers with the problems that they have in their network? Were you starting to find that they were referring you to kind of the audience that really need this?
The brokers I work with are fantastic at referring on. They will say, and they know I'm very honest. I am exceptionally honest with them. We're still building, we're still developing. We rely on them, and they pass that message on. We're working BrokerIQ, and they're very young, but they're willing to work with you, and that's exactly the message I want to get out. And if there's anything that you need, we will work with them. Then I suppose it didn't take long for the networks kind of to get involved. And again, it was my brokers themselves who, if there was a BDM out in the local area, were saying, we're using this system, BrokerIQ, and suddenly I was getting demos in front of the networks, and They're harder conversations to have and they're longer conversations to have, but you know, I suppose that's how it's just by word of mouth. And then suddenly that goes out, one network's talking to you, you might have another network, you know, contact you, and you know, they've heard about BrokerIQ, and that seems to be the traction that we've had to date.
Yeah, and it's not working, probably that's more of a distribution channel then, that you're kind of talking to the networks and then they're helping build that brand across a wider audience from the scalability piece. And then taking that to the next stage, we were talking about earlier is, you know, building the product, building the business, you know, talking to the networks, getting the customers. At what point, you know, and your businesses and startups always need money, but at what point do you think, right, we need to actually bring some investment into the company to be able to scale? Because, you know, with 3 or 4 around the table, you're still juggling all these balls, but actually be able to divvy them out and do it properly and scale it properly. There comes a point that you think, right, we need to showcase this, maybe go on the investment sprint journey, talk to the investors, talk about the opportunity and take it outside the, you know, the customer piece. So was there a point that
yeah, well, I suppose with Michael having our CEO on board, who's been used to the funding journey, also helped us. And Michael was always preparing us for that stage of funding. But when did the bit come that we knew what was ahead of us then, you know, we knew what was coming. So we built our MVP. We bootstrapped it for so long ourselves, you know. Des had given up his full-time job in software development. Michael was working, nobody was taking a salary, you know. I now was out of employment. We were putting our all into the business. But there was a stage now that we needed now our tech audits and our pen tests, because we were getting more clients on board, and we needed to make sure that the technology was safe, scalable, you know, all of that stuff, and that takes money, you know. So we had at that point we knew we needed money to keep us all going at that stage, and that's when we started the investment sprint. And we were very lucky to have angel investors coming in at that early stage to help us at that very, I suppose that's when I could see, if there's nobody there to pull you out, then where do you go? You know, where do you go at that point? So we were lucky that we did have somebody come in, and then we had followed on with our investment round, where we had another.
I think it's that journey of when you've got business traction and you've got a good team and you're actually being able to showcase the real opportunity, it becomes interesting to, you know, angel investors, because you've de-risked it, because they come in and say, right, there's a good market opportunity here, the brokers really like it, they're buying in, they're feeding into the topic, then, you know, there's a good product that's actually improving, and then there's actually people who are willing to not only use it as beta testers but then pay for it. So it actually has all the tick points the investors looking for in terms of de-risking it, and it's showcasing that of how much do you raise, when do you raise it, how long is that going to take. And I remember, I think it was probably around the digital DNA time last year that we were talking about, well, when do we kick this off, and when is ever a good time to start raising investment? But you've got that runway from September to December, end of the year, then a nice runway into kind of April financial year end, where you've got funds are interested, angel investors are interested, not just because it's a good company, but potential AIS benefits. So the fundraising journey can take a period of time. But I think some of the tips that we've learned through that is about being prepared and about having a really good showcase. We talk about kind of the pitch decks and the presentations. I mean, one of the questions we ask is, you know, how many pitch decks do you think you've probably had since, you know, even September last year? You probably have 10 or 20, because you're having individual conversations and each investor's looking for something different.
Absolutely. And then even if you're applying for any of the local, you know, the grants or anything like that, you know, they're very specialized pitch decks as well. So you have to do a totally different one for them. Absolutely. But I think also it was advice that Ria's had at the very start when we were going through the alumni, the data room, you know, I would advise starting that from the very start, you know, and having that ready for when you do go out to raise, because that was something that our investors have absolutely loved and have commented on all the detail and the data that we did have in there. And now I still use it. I still just put everything into that data room, and it's there for anybody who wants to go and see it.
Yeah, because everybody's looking for something different. Somebody might be finance background, don't want to see your financial forecast. Somebody might want to see your go-to-market. And if you have each one parts of your business broken down into that data room, and it's just information, you probably have it all in different places, but pull it together and have it in one place makes those conversations a lot easier and a lot quicker, that you can say, right, okay, you're asking about this, if you check out this information, it's all there. And it's about being well prepared and having that information in there and updating it, because as you say, you get frequently asked questions like you do from customers, from investors, if they're asking something, you know, about the broker network or something about, you know, the product that's coming up time and time again, put that front and foremost of what you're talking about.
The data is very important.
And you know, we talk quite a bit from the investor side of things about kind of the lead side and the ambition and taking those companies on that journey of, right, is there somebody that can, you know, do the due diligence and invest into the company, as well as, you know, advise. You know, you're asking a lot from the investors, but from the brokers angle, then they know that you've got a really good team of advisors that are technical, advisors that are commercial, advisors that have maybe investors that have been there and done it. And we talked a wee bit about previously about mortgage brokers also being interested, as, you know, this is a product that could be really interesting for them to get involved with and support from a partnership point of view and take it forward. You know, so there's lots of different angles from a business perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's getting that the expertise in from I mean, I do very much pride BrokerIQ on being a platform built by brokers for brokers. And I mean, I take very little credit in that. I came very much from the customer engagement side of things, and obviously I worked in the broker industry. But I would say a lot of the platform has been shaped by the brokers using it, you know, and from their real life experience and how it makes their day-to-day lives easier. And keeps them up to date and current and modern with the changes that are going on in nearly every other aspect of life that people have gotten used to, you know. So from an investment point of view, yes, I've had brokers that have expressed interest, and that's also been very important for the company.
So I mean, I'd be interested to find out if there's any questions in the room. We'll keep talking. If there's any on Zoom and you want to put them into the chat, please let us know. And if there's any coming from the room, there's a few there possibly in the chat. Leave it to you. No, not yet. Either from the commercial side of, you know, going out to market, or from the investment side, or even from building the team. You know, is there anything that you guys want to ask Joanne while she's here and she's got, you know, a couple of minutes of time?
I have about 1,000 questions.
You
talked about, you know, 3 of you not being paid. Was you, your brother, and I think your friend? At what stage did you get paid? I mean, at what stage did you leave?
Not to very recently. Not to very recently. So I think we were, well, I left teaching last June. So nearly a year now out. For a period of time it was tough, you know. Well, it was tough, but then I look back at even whenever I started on this journey, and I really just loved the insurance space, the broking space. That I just loved the industry when I went into it.
But you were teaching.
But I was teaching. Yeah, I was teaching.
Broken part-time.
Yeah, broken part-time.
Was there an opportunity to move full-time?
There would have been an opportunity to move full-time, but you know, I was distracted by what I was doing and the digital side of things, you know, and that's when I went into my move was to go into the digital end of things and the customer engagement platform.
Did you teach IT?
No, I didn't teach IT. I taught primary.
You seem to have a good grasp.
Well, I came from, I think it is important to mention, like I was a teacher, obviously, and I taught full-time for 18 years, 17 years, so I was at it a long time. But I very early went into assessment coordinator in the role I was in, and with that we moved from paper-based examinations into digital, and that was very much under my lead, and that was my first love for the digital end of things. And I think that's very important to mention, because people probably out of context don't see where I would have this want to do the digital end of things. So we moved completely digital. So we were a large school, and the children all did their tests digitally, and then I specialised in looking at their data and analysing any child who needed help from outside external agencies based on the results that they had, based on their intelligence against their literacy and numeracy scores, and even as far as children who maybe needed some nurture or help outside of that. And that was a big part of what I did, and it was a really big purpose for that. And I think I applied the same principles to the insurance industry. I just looked at all of the data that was coming in and how we could use that data to help the brokers and the clients move forward. And that's where BrokerIQ really came from.
Sorry, when did you take external investment?
Last January, just January 2022. Yeah, we
So
got
you
an
didn't
angel
realize that
investor.
sometimes as an investor, I don't want to see an owner or a founder be a part-time. I mean, if I'm an investor, I want to see somebody committed to the whole thing.
Well, I made the commitment the week I spoke to Reece.
Yes.
I would say and that was October 2020. And I made the commitment then that if I was going to go into this, and there was a lot of hard conversations to be had, I made the decision that if I was going to go into this, it was going to be full time. And it was then I had to, you have to teach the full year out, so I couldn't just leave my job. We're entitled to a 5-year career break, so that's what I'm on. So I suppose it wasn't like leaving my job permanently, but I'm leaving unpaid for up to 5 years. But I had to apply for that, submit that application. So that was, we made that decision, that was submitted in the January of 2021. So by the time I'd gone to raise investment, I'd made that commitment. I was full-time in BrokerIQ from the June of 2021 before we raised in January 22.
And is it all privates or do you have VC investors?
We have one angel investor and we have a VC, a London VC. So yeah.
I'm specifically interested in the insurtech industry, which I think it's useful to probably pick up on, that we're seeing a lot more angel investors and funds focusing in on industries that they understand, because they understand the go-to-market, they understand, the business model, and they can also probably cross-refer as well. So there's collaboration opportunities within the industries that they're investing into. So we're seeing quite a bit of that from the work that we're doing. I think that connection of, it was the fund that we'd had connections from Ray's, who's been over to Northern Ireland a few times, built up good relations, and just, it's a good match. And we're looking for more of those, whereby specific funds looking for specific fintech, cyber, recruitment, travel, tourism, whatever the next, we're talking about AI, machine learning, metaverse. There's specific people who understand the business models in the industries, and those are the ones that are interested in these early stage startups. Mm-hmm. And what you were talking about earlier in terms of actually getting up in the morning and what makes you excited, all that learnings of the data from school and the learnings from turning things digital, that's what gets you up in the morning, and that's created this opportunity. And we talk a lot about that with our startup founders, what's going to get you up in the morning, because it's a hard journey, and it's a long journey, and that's, you've had some unpaid time and you've had to be resilient and work part-time. So what excites you?
From the very start, from when I think back to the very early days of working in the broken industry, and I went into working and I was off on maternity, and I went in sort of on my own time just to do a wee bit with the but I had that drive to want to do that. I definitely was driven by the data, to want to do that. And even when I was in school, I mean, no teachers want to do data, they loathe it. And I was so enthusiastic, I used to get up and really thrive at presenting what I had found out about the results. And, anybody now that knows my family will know that this is a bit of a trait in my family. But, and I just had that real passion at that stage. I knew then, that this is what I wanted to focus on, want to specialize on. And I'd sort of done that in school for 10 years. There was no further, I couldn't go any further with it. I'd reached my I was ready to hand it on now and move on to something else. And that's where, when I went into the insurance industry, well, there was no end of data there to analyze and to try and problem solve, I suppose. And that's what BrokerIQ, it's just been that, I've solved, there's a problem there that we have solved. And that, there's more and more research coming out from it was Money Matters last week, and I read the article, and it was like, I think somebody has been looking at BrokerIQ, it was talking about the importance of the broken industry developing a front-facing end for clients, because all of the technology is focused on the back end, between the brokers and the insurance companies. So in there, it's quite digital now, there's lots of new companies coming in there, and they're really digitizing the process for the brokers, between the broker and the insurance companies. But how do they this doesn't reach the client in any way? It still leaves the broker with that gap between them and the client, so in here is very digital, it's getting very digital, and it's been very much embraced but how is that carried through? So we're seeing a lot of traction even from the software houses here, who can see that if we have a good client facing application, that is an easy link into them, and it's there for the broker industry, you know, as well. So it's an exciting space, you know, and that probably is what gets me up every day, Jenny, because every day there's innovation, because it's been a notoriously I suppose legacy based.
Yes, it is very much based on that phone call, email relationship.
Absolutely.
Trying to replicate that. And I think what was really interesting about it is you don't have to wait for the annual renewal to come up. They can have that relationship of, you know, what are you doing, you know, from a business perspective or a residential perspective this quarter, about, you know, you're thinking about, you know, price reviews or policy reviews, or linking into anything that they're adding to, you know, their residents or their travel policy, or, you know, it's giving them opportunity to upsell and talk to the clients on a regular basis rather than wait.
Well, it gets them in front of, the app itself is designed to keep the broker in front of their client at all times in a non-intrusive way, you know, that it's not going through, well, email, you know, we all know the statistics of email and the conversions and all of that. So I suppose we're unique in that we are the only customer engagement platform in the market that's app-based, so that the client can communicate completely with their broker through the app. And through the 3 stages, they onboard themselves. They then, the admin process goes on through the app. We have a 2-way chat facility, and we also have the safe upload of documents through the app. And then we continue that relationship between the client and the broker with the customer engagement. So we automate birthday messages, and it's all done by video. So again, we're getting in there with the video marketing. We give the brokers, when they sign up to us, they would get like a small, I suppose, a stock image or stock videos, and it's all branded to them. So there are logos on it, their name, their telephone number, their website. We give them the video, they can use it. They may want to do their own video, and that's fine. And they get all of that, and then that automates through our system. So on the morning of your birthday, you would have a nice birthday video message on your app from your broker, and it's keeping that client relationship. And we all know the statistics of keeping a client as opposed to source a client is much easier. So suppose there's the 3 parts to our platform, as I said before. There's the admin and the saving time, and the amount of time that we can save the admin, and the client convenience on the client side of, I don't talk about that as much, but on the client side, you can see all of your policies on your phone. You can click to speak to your broker at any time. You can send a text message to them at any time. You can see your policies. You can bring your policies up. You know, you can do all of that through the client app. You know, and it's just a big part for me was the transparency as well, that, you know, you were able to go to your phone and to see everything, as opposed to trying to source it and
take it out of an email or
a
a
drawer,
filing cabinet,
wherever it was. So yeah, there's benefits on both sides.
Two questions actually. One in from Cooper and one from Claire. We'll go with Cooper first. He's over in Birmingham. He's founder of Future Match.
Cooper, if you can hear us and you want to ask a question, then come off mute.
Yes, I can. Hello. Hey, Joanne. Amazing. So my question is, you know, so, you know, the whole kind of juggling the journey between your product developing and your raising and everything else that's happening. So how did you kind of manage to keep all those kind of plates spinning at the same time, and prioritizing which plate to spin the most?
I always have a very easy answer to this, because I have a fantastic team, and I say this all the time, and Jenny knows the team now very well, and I am exceptionally blessed with a really fantastic team. Michael takes care of a lot of the investment and the legals and all of that important stuff that goes alongside that. We have Des on the tech, and I'm there with the clients and the customers, and of course we have our management meetings, structure and routine, a good team and really good structure and really good routine. You know, we have our set times every week that we have our management meetings. That doesn't change, and everybody has their roles and responsibilities. And I suppose for me, it's taken a while, and to be honest, it has taken a while, because I was the one really doing everything for such a period of time, and then it's getting that level of trust to trust everybody else in their roles, and then we come together and we discuss it. And so I think time, or trust in the team, a good team, an excellent team, trust in the team, and everybody with their roles and responsibilities, and good time management.
Thanks, Cooper, for your question. Is there a question from
One from Claire as
Claire?
well.
Claire? Do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, hi Joanne. So I know
Claire.
a little bit about your platform, but for me, I suppose I always think it's so customer facing, and it's really useful to the customer. I'm wondering, have you thought about potentially selling the insurance products directly to the customer? Is that something that's going to be on the tech roadmap? And if not, why not?
No, Claire, I don't think of that at this minute in time. I built BrokerIQ for brokers. I see a large enough market there. It's a large market. And we have a plan for artificial intelligence as we develop. And again, that came from my initial business. My initial business was called Review It. So I really started doing what I'm doing now because I used to just review people's policies. So they would come to me, generally self-employed, a lot of businessmen, men or women would have come to me self-employed, and they would have had a portfolio of insurances, and I would have streamlined that down for them, you know, and we would have looked at what they had and were they overinsured, underinsured, put it all together. It was really the bare bones of BrokerIQ. But where I see our product going is that we will be able to have that same overview of people's clients and policies in the future and their mortgages and their financial data, and that we will be able to use artificial intelligence to pick holes in that, but it will always be broker centric. It will be to inform the broker to make them more efficient. We don't have plans at the minute, Claire, to sell insurance ourselves. I think we need to stay in the lane that we're in, and we're doing a good job of what we're doing with the customer engagement. I think the brokers do a very good job of what they do, and I think the insurance companies and the sourcing systems do a very good job for the brokers, and it's trying to get that end to end to make the industry that wee bit more transparent, clear, and fluid for everybody involved. But selling insurance is not on my plans at the moment.
I think, you know, that broker focus that they have, the knowledge and the expertise, and they're able to, you know, pick and choose, and they know the best products for the clients, they know the best policies for the clients. Is it business? Is it, you know, travel? Is it cars? It's quite specialized.
Well, it's another reason why I built BrokerIQ, and it was for brokers, because I do genuinely see the need to have good brokers, and brokers they do a good job. You know, I have seen amazing outcomes from clients that have had to use brokers to maybe at some of the worst times in their lives, you know, and the broker's been there. I've seen really bad scenarios where there hasn't been a broker involved, and what the outcome of that could have been. And I mean, I think I built a platform to support the broker network, and I think the broker network at the very start, I remember mentioning this to an investor, not from Northern Ireland, but the very start of my journey, and you know, it was more or less, you know, the brokers are a damn breed, you know, they're not going anywhere. It's very far from that. The brokers are absolutely, and you'll find that the younger generations coming through are actually looking to use now at the minute with the interest rates. The brokers are overcome with the younger generations going through, because the younger generations, I think, are more informed than I probably was at their age, and they know to go to a broker. They're going to get the best service, they're going to get the best price, they're going to know that they're guaranteed a good product. But for my benefit, they also expect digital touch points, and that's what we're providing with them. They're going to go to their broker, but they're going to have the digital as well.
I also think the hassle as well of, you have so many different policies in so many different places and so many different renewal dates. The hassle the broker takes it out of, you know, the younger generation just want things that are streamlined and things are easy as well.
And I think there's enough digital products out there selling insurance and mortgages and things. It's not what the ethos of BrokerIQ is.
Can I have more questions, but I don't want to hog the room. So if anybody else has a question, fire on.
I'm going to ask, excuse me, the market, is it UK, Ireland, Europe, or worldwide?
Well, at the minute we're UK and Ireland. That's where we're based at the moment. We've had a few conversations in the American market, and we have a few, I suppose, even investors really in the American market. We've had a good bit of interest there. The American broker market's slightly different. However, we're finding the interest that we're having the networks over here is quite similar to over in the American market, but at the minute we're just UK and Ireland.
So you've got the team, you've got the product, you've got an audience that wants it.
Yeah.
Right. So how are you going to scale? You know, this is a question of what is your market, UK and Ireland? How many brokers are in the UK? And how many have you got? How many locally have you got?
Well, there's 50,000 in the UK in general. You know, speaking to the network yesterday, whose question was, you know, we've 4,000 brokers. How are you going to manage if we say we want you to serve 1,000 of them in the next few months, you know? So that's absolutely in our plan. You know, we have our CTO, he's built the product himself. We have outsourced to local companies on the scalability. You know, this is not something we just started this week. We have been in communication with this from last October. So this is what we've been preparing for. We've been preparing for the product to go. It's a SaaS model. You know, we have to go.
Yeah, it's a sales model.
It's a
I'm
sales
trying to
model.
drive into, because you've got 50,000 or 40,000 brokers. You can't visit them all. So you're going to have to reach out online.
Yeah,
Are there
well,
groups that you personally sell to? And then do you automate the sort of lower brokers?
yeah, absolutely. We will, with the minute we're working with the day-to-day brokers, and we're working with the networks as well. You know, we sort of built the product just for the day-to-day brokers. We have our outreach marketing campaign, and we have our customer success. We're looking customer success personnel, and the customer success will be part of that. It's nearly even as important as the tech and the scalability, because to me that's what the basis of our product is. And I have a wee bit of an obsession with customer success, and I think our product has done so well to date because of the customer success of the brokers. You know, but I can't continue to do that myself with everybody that's coming on board. So we have a plan and a model that we have in place that we will replicate. There's a lot of automation going in there, that we can automate a lot of the processes, and then we need the personnel to kind of build that up. And that doesn't matter if that's a small individual broker or if that's a network with 1,000 brokers. We still have to have that same level of customer success for the
network of 1,000 brokers, but they have one buying point. If they one buyer who buys for 1,000 brokers.
Well, you would be, the network would take you in, and you would be then you would either connect. Maybe we have open APIs, so that would be a way into their network, and it would go out through them, or you would be promoted through their network, as in, you know, we're recommending that you use BrokerIQ, and then you would have just the access to all of the
And
brokers.
they self-serve, and they download your app and pay for it. There's no direct selling involved.
No, you can do it. It's all. I mean, I have really focused in the last number of months on the onboarding process. And I have a 5-stage plan, and it's very easy, and you could download and go now. You know, if it's not heavy on the end, there's no integration. You don't have to integrate to another system, you know, so you can download and go. You just case by case, you use it with your clients. So my onboarding at the moment would be the brokers with a client. We're using a new system called BrokerIQ. You know, download your app now, and off we go, basically.
So you mean you must have a big marketing spend, because basically that's how you reach these people.
Well,
Through your marketing efforts,
we're-
and then let them self-serve and sign on.
We're only starting the marketing really now. We were talking about that this morning, Jenny. You know, we've just raised our investment, and that's all in our plan now for the future. You know, the marketing is a big part of the.
But I think the brand ambassador piece, or broker ambassador piece, I suppose you should call it, whereby it's a network referral, and they're able to go out and say, well, we've now partnered with, and you should be thinking about this, and they're putting it in front of them, whether that be through their newsletters or through their communication. You're becoming their ambassador for you, and they're saying, actually, you'll make your client relationships better by using BrokerIQ, that they're on your side
Yeah,
as a
absolutely.
network, and therefore they're not going to have probably, yes, a large marketing spend, but you're not cold. It's not cold
Absolutely.
marketing, it's warm marketing, which is even better. So,
Yeah.
you know, the opportunities there, and the networks are buying it, and the individuals are buying it.
And we're finding
So,
the networks are behind us. You know, it's, I suppose now we're out now, people know about us, but I've been talking to networks for months, you know, and now they know we're not a threat. You know, I suppose what Claire alludes to, you know, they know that we're not we're not a sourcing system. We don't take anything to do with the sale of insurance or mortgages. We are there to facilitate the relationship between the client and the broker. You know, we do have our open APIs. We have discussions with the networks about linking in with APIs and linking straight into their system, you know, and that would be absolutely a very good way for us to go, you know, as well. And I know a lot of the tech companies that would be sitting, whether they're on the sourcing side or whether they're on the side that I'm on, would be the easiest way into the networks.
Do you have competition?
We have a few operating in the customer engagement platform, but we do pride ourselves on being the only app-based, the full front-face app for the client. A lot of our other competition would be more just solely specific on the customer engagement, on that automating birthday emails or automating the renewal dates and that end of things, whereas we go one step further. We're both front-facing we help with the admin process, we help with the onboarding of the clients, and then we end with the customer engagement. So I think we offer a bit more than our competitors.
Yeah, and I think, to go from, as we talked about earlier, going from the idea into the business, into getting customers, into recognizing where you are in the market and the market opportunity of partnerships, of individual brokers, of networks, and actually that scalability piece is there, and there's probably lots more to come, and we could sit down this time next year and you would have a completely different story to the journey that you've been on in the last 2 years. And I think that's the interesting piece of the startups, is it's very really segmented into, it's a bit scrappy at the start, it's a bit get ideas, it's product, and then all of a sudden it's commercial, it's getting your first customers, and now this is the scalability piece where it's building the team, getting the processes in place, doing things right, building that brand, and being really, putting the best foot forward. And one of the questions we talked about even before we started the event was, if you were to kind of rewind, to this time last year, you were talking to any new founders coming into the market that have that idea, that are really thinking about starting that business, what would you say to them? Is there any kind of hints or tips or advice that you would say to those new and exciting founders that want to go on the journey that you've been on?
Just do it.
Just do it. I'm gonna get you a wee Nike tip.
Go for it. Just do it. No, I suppose you have to be measured in it as well, and you have to have a plan. I think you can have a concept and an idea, but it's bringing that to the market. And again, I have a lot of guidance. I think joining a good accelerator, I joined me is very early. As I say, that week I took a notion one Tuesday, and I think we were on a call very quickly. It was very quick, and that, then we started into the 10-week course, and but yeah, I think just to have a good plan and to build up a good team and to look for good people around you that can help, and to understand that every day is not going to be perfect, and there's going to be setbacks, and there's going to be disappointment, but there's going to be very good days, and it is a bit like a roller coaster.
Yeah, the startup roller coaster.
It is a roller coaster, but I think if you have that sort of nature for it, I think I've always had that kind of a want to do it. I mentioned before, my father was a businessman, and self-employed, and I lived with that. So I suppose going self-employed wasn't as big a jump for me, because I'd grown up with it and I understand what that was about. And from a very young age, I was on the stands of the Ideal Home exhibition. He was in construction, from when I was 12, 13, and I loved that. I got a buzz from that. So I think you need to have that drive and that enthusiasm to want to face that every day. Maybe you need to be a bit crazy, I'm not entirely sure, but you have to want that drive, that
ambition.
Yeah.
I'm conscious we're of time, so I just wanted to wrap up there and say thank you so much for Joanne for joining us for today for the Startup Stories. And if you do want to find out more about BrokerIQ, to definitely get in touch, either if you want to use it as a client, or you have a mortgage broker that'd be interested in using it. Where can I get in touch with you, Joanne?
Well, they can connect with me on LinkedIn or any of the social media channels, or we have our new website coming out as well. They can request a demo online if you wish, or email joanne@brokeriq.co.uk, or contact you, Jen.
Brilliant, round of applause for Joanne. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining online. I'll let you finish up your lunch and get back to work. And we'll have a quick catch up here in the room. Thank you very much.
I didn't get to ask my question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Joanne.
I was wondering how you went about the user testing. So did you run a pilot scheme with some, or?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say I was as technical as that, but I literally just went into brokers' offices that I had maybe known or had heard tell of. I remember Jim Smith, he's on the website, and he's not mind me talking about it, but just having a chat with Jim one day and saying, Jim, I'm doing this here, and I've got an MVP built, and listening to his feedback. Yeah, Joanne, we're really stuck for something like that. Like, we would really want, and then Jim, will you come on board and help me? And it was nothing as planned as having a very specific. It was raw and scrappy, is what I would say. It was very early days, and I brought those brokers on board alongside me, and some of them didn't want to be, and that was fine. That was fair enough. I took that as much as a drive to keep going. Or some, you'll find, I have another really, really large broker in Uri, and they're not using the platform at the minute because they have a different setup with the network, and we'll have to go through them before they can use it. But I still speak to that broker on a weekly basis. I listen to his feedback all of the time, where he sees the market changing, and he's just as interested in this space as I am. And he would be continually talking to the network that he works with as well, and keeping on the radar a wee bit. But certainly in the very early days, it was just, you know, testing it out with them. I think when I launched properly with a good product that actually went out to clients, I'd already been in contact with the brokers a good bit, as opposed to just going in with a product that, and thankfully with no very few tech issues.
Yeah.
You know, the product has developed a lot, but I think that's probably another bit of good advice. Just, we've had no real glitches or problems with the technology, which meant the brokers got on board quite well, you know, quite quickly. Now, we had a very basic product and we've developed a lot since then, but what they had always worked, and still now when we release a new feature, so with the two-way chat feature went out, and you know,
Make sure that it works.
it just needed to work. There was an awful thorough testing, because you know yourself, there's nothing worse than a technology product that goes out and then it stops working because you've just lost momentum. And so anything that went out even in the early days, while the process mightn't have been as meticulous, the technology always worked.
Yeah, I think that user testing basis, 1 or 2 or 3 customers can be really valuable. It doesn't have to be hundreds at the start, that actually get that feedback and spend time, quality time with them, and then develop from there and bring them on that journey, because then they feel special and they've had input, and then they become the ambassadors.
The brokers I took on in the early days are fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
I have a really good relationship with them, and you know, I can talk to them about, go to them and ask them things, you know, that I wouldn't be so sure of maybe if we're ready for this at this stage, you know, and they're really good.
So I hope this doesn't sound like prying. So you were charging them the filled up from the beginning?
No, at the very start, my goodness, no. We were going out just getting there. They were using it. No, they were using the platform and for free, and they were, and even now early adopters coming on, you know, I still require a certain bit of flexibility with them, you know, and because I think I have seen that having those brokers have in the long run have been the best sale of my platform that I could ever have done myself through any marketing campaign. You know, when the BDM of one of the biggest networks that I'm talking to now is in the office looking at my platform, that's okay. I'm happy enough for that. You know, that's a big enough sell for me. And he, now that BDM is one of the biggest advocates I have in the network, and whether it's directly into the larger group or just other brokers that he's talking to out and about in the area. You know, these guys are using BrokerIQ, why don't we track them out? And there's another demo booked in, you know, and that is the
value of the
value.
case study or the testimonial of somebody being able to try it out and maybe not pay as much for it right now. And the other good thing about that is you can maybe ask them to try out new features that haven't gone to a wider network just yet, because they're not paying as much for it right now, and they don't mind because they're not paying so much. They'll test it out and get the feedback, and there's a two-way conversation there and user feedback.
It's working with them.
Yeah.
It's just working with the clients and making sure that they understand where we are as a business, and where we're going, and that they're going to come on the journey with us. And I've been very blessed with very, very good clients to date.
Good question. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Lovely to join online. I'll switch off at this side.
Thank you very much.